Tonight on Duck TV Sports, a new rule could drastically change the college football landscape. A player one year, a coach the next. Hear Kristen Shope's unique story. And we examine the postseason outlook for both Oregon basketball teams. It's all on Duck TV Sports in just 10 seconds. Welcome into our Allen Hall studios for the latest edition of Duck TV Sports. I'm Ryan Rillard. She's Sarah Scrivens, and we got lots to talk about surrounding Oregon athletics, starting with a potential rule change in college football. In recent years, collegiate offenses have been running on a bright green light, seemingly getting snaps off faster and faster as the years go by. However, a new rule proposal from the NCAA may turn that light from green to yellow. Here's what the NCAA is proposing as part of the rule. When the 40-second play clock's in effect, the offense can't snap the ball until 10 seconds have elapsed. This intended to allow defensive teams more time to substitute. The rule does not take effect under the 25-second play clock, nor is it in place in the final 2 minutes of either half. Violators are subject to a 5-yard delay of game penalty. Now, obviously, a rule like this is going to have major ramifications across the country. Lots of coaches are really upset with it, including a couple in the Pac-12. Here's Arizona head coach Rich Rodriguez, who says, quote, "It's a joke. It's ridiculous. And what's most ridiculous, did you see what the penalty is going to be called? Delay of game. How is that a delay of game? That's the ultimate rules committee decision. Make the game slower and call it delay of game." Up in Pullman, here's Washington State head coach Mike Leach, who says, quote, "First off, I doubt it will pass. Second, it's ridiculous. All this tinkering is ridiculous. Anytime someone doesn't want to go back to the drawing board or rework their solutions to problems, then what they do is to beg for a rule. I think it's disgusting." Now, Sarah, lots of teams have started to adopt this fast-paced kind of no-huddle offense, which means a lot of teams could be affected by a rule like this, especially here in Eugene.
Ryan, I couldn't agree more, especially teams like Oregon that have been utilizing a quick tempo, quick snap offense. A lot of really big changes set for their offense if this proposal does go through. However, so far, the only real feedback that has been in favor of the proposal has been from coaches of traditionally slower offenses coming out of the SEC and the ACC.
Now, the NCAA is calling this a player safety issue. We've heard that before with things like the targeting rule, which came into effect last year. But unlike the targeting rule, it seems like, at least on the surface, if this rule is to be passed, it's not going to make the game that much safer. Your thoughts?
Couldn't agree more. It seems to be a pretty sheer proposal, really resting on one of the core values of college football. It's an aggressive sport by nature. No matter what you do in the name of player safety is going to prevent some issues, but at the same time, there is still going to be plenty of opportunity for players to be injured. And it leaves me wondering, how much can we realistically water down the rule set for this game before we completely change the face of college football as we know it?
Well, we'll know more about the future of this rule on March 6th when it goes to the Playing Rules Overview Panel for either approval or denial. Now, whether or not the rule gets passed, don't expect to see Marcus Mariota taking the head coaching reins at Oregon next season. In fact, don't expect any Division I player to make the jump from player to head coach in the span of 12 months. Even though she's not a Division I player, that's exactly what Oregon Women's Club head lacrosse coach Kristen Shope did, and she recently sat down with our own Ronald Clark to talk about the move.
We sat down with Kristen Shope, who has made the jump from player to coach for the University of Oregon's Women's Club lacrosse team. Could you name any challenges you faced making that transition from player to coach?
I've watched it as a player and I've watched it as a ref, but watching it as a coach and watch specific things that girls are doing, be able to tell them what's wrong and how to counter it, how to fix it.
How does it feel to coach a team you previously played for?
It's different. When they asked me to do it, I was hesitant because there's so many girls that I played with last year, or I'm only a year older, maybe the same age. So I was hesitant about would they respect me and take me seriously, but it's been a lot of fun, and they love having younger coaches that jump in with them from time to time.
What type of coach are you? What do you expect out of your players?
You ask my players, they'd probably say I ask a lot as far as detail. I look for the fundamentals. I don't want them getting stupid fouls because they have a bad check or bad foot position, so they definitely would say that I'm detail-oriented. And the understanding any good coach has is I can't just necessarily run this scheme or that scheme. It's who do I have, what kind of skills do they bring, and let's utilize those and capitalize on them.
Did that factor into you sticking with the team and wanting to coach?
Yeah, I think my heart's here, and I'd hate to see it drop off just because someone wasn't around to coach.
Kristen hopes to make an immediate impact in her first year as coach. Signing off for Duck TV Sports, I'm Ronald Clark.
Good stuff, Ronald. We now turn our attention to the hardwood as both Oregon basketball teams begin to round out their regular seasons and look to the postseason. And that's a word Oregon women's basketball just couldn't think about last year in the midst of that rough 4-27 campaign. This year, however, the NIT is a real possibility for the Ducks as long as they finish their regular season strong. If they're able to do that and make the NIT, or really any postseason tournament for that matter, just how much does it say about Paul Westhead and his squad and what they've been able to do over the last year?
It says a lot about Oregon and their resilience following a record low season here at Oregon. The women have really relied on the talent and leadership of players such as Jillian Aileen and Shea Rowe, and have really turned the program around and headed them in the right direction. A lot of programs wouldn't see a place in the NIT as an improvement or something positive, but at Oregon, I think the women definitely, that's a lot better than how last year ended for them.
Perhaps the next stepping stone to an NCAA tournament berth next year. Now that's where the men were last year. They made it to the Sweet 16. They're in jeopardy of falling to the NIT this year, though, and if they don't make a run at the end of the late season, or if they don't win the Pac-12 tournament and they end up in the NIT, how much of a disappointment should that be for players, coaches, and fans around here?
Anyone involved with Oregon men's basketball who has been following them since the beginning of the season has the right to be disappointed, especially following non-conference wins against teams like Georgetown, Illinois, and really showing that they are a really strong team, and then having a regular season where they've had a lot of upsets, a lot of late in the game issues falling apart towards the end. However, following Sunday's Civil War game, Oregon put up over 90 points against Oregon State. Jonathan Lloyd said he felt like this was a momentum shift for the Ducks, and that he could see them going on a run in the near future. And it is possible that they could finish out the end of their season a lot stronger than they have been playing for the majority of the season.
Well, they have 3 weeks and a Pac-12 tournament to make the run. The women have 2 weeks and the tournament before the postseason cards begin to shake themselves out. We'll keep you updated in the coming weeks on our Twitter at Duck TV Sports and on our website, ducktv.uoregon.edu. But that'll do it for this episode here tonight. So for Sarah Scrivens and our entire crew, I'm Ryan Rillard saying so long, and we'll talk to you again next week.